incredibly well-behaved crowd sitting down on time. Kaya Nanquil Catherine Clark, Nalak Kajak Wajak Nuambord Kurua Yeye, Kayan Karak Nija Buja. I acknowledge that we are meeting on Wajak Nuna land and acknowledge their people, past and present, and pay my respects to their elders. Welcome to the 2024 Western Australian Premier's Book Awards, and also this year the Writers' Hall of Fame induction. It's wonderful to see so many people here and celebrating Western Australian writing. It's always one of my favourite events of the year. My name's Catherine Clark and I'm the CEO and State Librarian at the State Library of Western Australia, and I'm delighted to be your MC this evening. As we commence the evening, I'd like to invite Dr. Roma Winmar to welcome us to country. Dr. Winmar is a Noongar elder, artist and language expert, and she was very gracious at not laughing when I vaguely attempted my Noongar earlier in front of her to practice. She has significant experience in Indigenous education and the arts and is continuously working to promote Noongar language and cultural activities. And Roma was awarded an honorary doctorate by Edith Cowan, you all right? By Edith Cowan University in 2020. Roma has extensive language skills and is employed as a Noongar language teacher at Moorditch Noongar Community College and as elder in residence at Edith Cowan University. And on top of all of that, Roma won the Elder of the Year at the 2019 NAIDOC Awards and has been representative on a number of international delegations. We have received this from others, so I'm sure it's accurate. She has a passion, the very important bit, she has a passion for passing on family histories to the next generation, and is a regular visitor, I hear, to the State Library. Correct, excellent. Thank you for being here tonight, Roma.
I think that might have been stretching it a bit. Oh gosh, what did I say now? My name is Roma Winmar, but my Noongar name is Yibiang, and that name was gifted to me by my mother. And I feel that everything that I do is just building on the foundations that she made many, many years ago, through all the hardships that, she just brushed aside. And I think my great-granddaughter put that together. They stretch it a bit. But my main claim to fame is being a mother. And absolutely, and having 5 children that have good work ethic and everything else. And I have been around for a few decades, you fellas. And as a family, we've always been storytellers. You just sort of step back in time, sitting around the fire, everyone yarning, everyone telling stories, passing things on. And we don't have a fire at the school or anything else, but I still try to pass on story and history and everything else, yeah. And I know I was going to say something else. Even just being here, it's a privilege for me to be here, and it's amazing that just in being in a particular place, you meet up with people that whose ancestors and that have actually touched the lives of your family as they've been just being. And I've had the privilege of meeting up with some this evening. So I guess I'm meant to be here for something, okay? To meet up with him. And I'd like to sing you in a minute. And like I say, I'm really privileged to be here. And in the decades that I've been hanging around, there's lots of chapters that I'd like to write, But I'm too busy talking to actually sit down and write, I think. Yeah. Anyway, Nganjurubin nunat jiningin, nunuk yual nicha, danju, wajak nunga buja. And the thing that I do with the children mainly is like, I'm not going to ask you to sing with me, all right? Or I might. Because what we use for the anthem is, I am Australian, you know. Ngalak kainmort, ngalak bulamort. Ngalak bula budrak you alko. Yang in ngalakunda, dunch waranking. Ngan, nunuk, ngalak murdich mort. And I'm going to ask you to sing along with me, all right? In English, we are one. Can you do that, you mob? Here we go. We are one, but we are many, and from all the lands on earth we come. We share our dreams and sing with one voice. I am, you are, we're family of man. And I'll say, Ngarlak kainmort, Ngarlak bulamort, Ngarlak bula bujrak you are cool. Yang in ngarlakundam, dunch warankin, ngan nunuk, Ngarlak murdich mort. I'm saying we're solid family, all right? While we're here, we're coming together as family. And after all that, now I'll sing you in, okay? And what I'm singing covers everything about welcome you here, the land that we're on, and how we're together as one. You right, you fellas? Yan kaya nyunduk you alko. Yan kaya nyunduk niche you alko. Ngarlak nunuk jinang yay. Jurup nunuk jinang yay. Yan kaya nunga bujayak. Yan kaya wajak nunga bujayak. Ngarlak nunuk jinang yay. Jurup nunuk jinang yay. Yan kaya jurup nunuk jinang yay. Welcome, and let's all enjoy each other's company. And I'm looking forward to see, you know, what happens with the rest of the... Too bad I haven't got a book in here, but never mind.
Thank you, Roma, for that wonderful welcome to country and for sharing your language and stories and an exquisite singing voice too. That was really beautiful. I'd now like to introduce Jack Collard to perform an original poem that Jack has written especially for this event. Jack's a proud citizen of the Noongar Nation with cultural ties that span from the pristine beaches of Wajak country through the wetlands of Boorloo, over Katamunda, the Black Hills, to the granite outcrops of Balladong Budja, which is home to the Mungak tree. Jack has a Bachelor of Arts in Political Science and International Relations from the University of Western Australia and is currently completing his honours with a focus on how Noongar kinship and taxonomy systems relate to local and international understandings of ecology and social cohesion. Jack is also multi-talented. Apart from all of that, he sings, dances, acts and writes poetry in response to Budja. Welcome, Jack.
That web woven that lifted all in that oneness. Reciprocity embodied, roles karmically assigned to every body and their timelines designed, parcels aligned. With those assignments completed, the evil defeated the evil, those people that think themselves above that web. Those people that don't speak Nyunga, because Nyunga doesn't have a word for please or thank you because no one ever had to beg. Those separate that snag instead. Skyscrapers impede the trapdoor spider's ability to bring us the protection he did before they ripped the lid. With each impression grounded in assumptions that until 200 years ago were not assumed, because we consumed that which balanced the bitter, the sweet. We all knew that the inner, that peace, could bring bounties of feasts. When we take what we need and take greed out equations, invasions don't make much sense. And since we're not living in tents, why not pollute the sky, block the sun where she rises in the east? This country, this land of abundance, they would feast on the frogs and the turtles, the koyok, the jiljet, the fish. I wish balance to return, but that oneness, it comes first. That's why we're the first and we'd be the last if we're going off the past, track records, the numbers on the boards. Karmically means rent's overdue for the crew spending in debt, spreading the threat of scarcity, used to manipulate casting nets over the unprivy to the power that one city, one spider he hold. For 4 nights, them old people held 16 clans on these shores. As the custodian of that spider would lead that ceremony, Yalor, Kaningera, ask him to weave that web through the many people gathered from the many lands. He would bind their hands in obligation to that occupation of upholding that web woven, and in that language spoken they sung his name, Banere Gamalana, and danced under moonlight. Miach, Baal Beningar, as they rose together, knee after knee. He protected the elected carers of everything under that web. So to you fellas, reflect on each thread in those systems, institutions, beliefs that have snagged that web for 200 years here, more for sure from the shores that led to these that the serpent carved, so that countless generations of life could be sustained as it rained, washed away ashes and gained new people to light new fires that inspire us to look higher. Beyond limitations, we've proven we are more than capable of creating, and then creating worlds based on their creation in a place in our mind, a castle built of division, mined by a division of slaves convinced of mining for the same reason. And as we agree to those, that those are our seasons, that's the world manifested. This world that's so different to what my old people, they cared for, because the stories that they shared for their children bared purpose to be meticulous in understanding that balance of Budja, understanding the power of that Dudja. What we sing, we conjure. And I wonder what songs will be sung in Rafa after all is said and done, and what's unsaid and not done will be sung from places of shame again, and these cycles of hand-wringing repeat as less sleep on ancestral homes. Now they cities, and shit is expensive. These dynamics, they stay tense. It's the nature of colonialism. Less elephants in the room, the better. In that moment. But maybe now you'd send a letter to those that first arrived and chose brutality as their course of action, that course of karma. Do their dharma, their conscience align with yours. These shores 200 years ago, or the shores from where it came, a culture with no shame, just pride in genocide. A culture dominant like its proponents in their enjoyment of the songs that lull us to sleep as mothers weep for starving children, stolen from their protection. In reflection, take impressions that take that easy path to disconnect just enough so that reconciliation isn't tough, because we are reconciling different truths. Yours are based on shadows on roofs of caves that made slaves out of men and allowed them to pretend that they probably deserve it. Some eggs need to be broken. For me, this system's broken. All the yokes and rights are rotten. We've never forgotten how it feels, so when we connect, it is so real. That's why them fellas kneeled and Nikki pointed out the problem, and that's why Adam got booed, because the colonizer's book keeps getting renewed by the few with the power to change the status quo, to change the flow of that karma. Come from a collective dharma connected to that web that protects, that mother who provides. Nonaka bina ba, to that light within that resides in us all on this ball flying through space. Thank you for sharing your time. As I speak from my country, from my heart. Listening is just the start.
Maybe we can all go home now. That's just sort of going to be very hard to top that. That was really beautiful. Thank you, Jack. An incredibly powerful expression of language, and I can't think of a better event to have that. Tonight's ceremony is being live streamed on the State Library's YouTube channel, so a big hello to everyone out there online. And the awards, as you would have worked out, are being Auslan interpreted, courtesy of Auslan Stage Left. And thank you to the interpreters who are working with us tonight, Christy and Danielle. And the results are going to be posted live on the State Library's Instagram channel at State Library WA. The State Library is widely recognised for the wide range of high quality services that we provide to the people right across Western Australia. And over the last 12 months, we've seen a significant increase in visitation, both to this building, but also online, as we reimagine our exhibitions, events, public programs, and digital collections. And I have been watching the people counter, as we call it, that counts the number of people that come through the front door. And as of today, not a setup, we have reached 500,000 visits for this financial year. So, that's a 30% increase on the previous financial year due to the work of all of my wonderful colleagues here. So a great milestone. We did at one point think that perhaps the Minister was going to be the 500,000th person, but I thought I couldn't say that anyway because it would have looked like a setup. So tonight is all about storytelling and writing, and this year our collections and West Australian stories have been able to shine in our range of public programs, exhibitions and events, including Crow Baby, which is still on upstairs in the Children's Gallery, beautiful exhibition featuring original artwork by Helen Milroy, Liquid Gold, which is still on for just the weekend behind us, but you can have a look tonight, which is a taste of WA brewing history, an incredible story of economics, agriculture, social history, health, etc. It's quite extraordinary. And Shakes, Fakes and Cameliers, which has received an incredible response from West Australians, many of whom are learning about this hidden history for the first time. And our next exhibition is called Keepsake, Treasured Family Mementos from the Collection, which is another beautiful collection exhibition that will open at the end of June. So, of course, there's an extraordinary commitment, skill and care that goes into not only collecting but preserving and sharing Western Australian stories. And we continue this work that's actually been done by the State Library for more than 130 years. And I often think about this little bit in time when I'm here and all of these other people who have been before and hopefully will come beyond. We're really pleased to be currently leading a project that's focused on preserving our audio-visual materials, so that's material like film, video cassettes, audio cassettes, through a $5 million state government-funded digitisation project that's going to allow us to safeguard and share these precious and unique tales of Western Australia, many of which have never been seen before. So I'd just like to share a brief highlights reel with you, which shows you some of the work that I've just mentioned, and also some very early footage from our audiovisual digitisation project, which has not been seen in public previously. So I hope that you enjoy this little short video. I'm now pleased to welcome the Honourable David Templeman, MLA, Minister for Culture and the Arts, to the stage. Good welcome.
Well, thank you very much for that cheer squad. That was lovely. First of all, can I acknowledge, of course, that we meet on Noongar. And can I, Dr. Roma and Jack, can I acknowledge the acknowledgement to country, the welcome to country that we received tonight, the beauty and the generosity, Roma, of your welcome is so beautiful, so poignant and so important. Thank you sincerely. To Jack, Jack, thank you so much for your poem and for your wonderful, wonderful words. Very powerful, very important. Look, I'm pleased that the Premier can't be here tonight. See, Catherine, I've gone off script already. Because I am so proud to be here as Minister for Culture and the Arts. The Honourable Roger Cook, though, seriously does send his sincere apology, but also his acknowledgement and congratulations to all of those who we are honouring tonight through the nominations and, of course, the announcements later of the award winners. Their second apology is I've actually come here, this is true, I actually put on the wrong pair of pants. I was a bit embarrassed. I'm wearing these chinos that I don't know how that happened. So I do apologise because I was looking as I was getting driven here and I thought, mistake number 3 today, David. Can I acknowledge Chair of the Library Board of Western Australia, the Honourable John Day, and thank John and the board for their tremendous work that they do for our state library and supporting, of course, the magnificent Catherine Clark, who is our CEO, and all of the staff here at the State Library of Western Australia. And I'd ask you to acknowledge them by a round of applause, because they're wonderful. Edith Wright, Director of award sponsor Magabala Books, which of course received an award only very recently, prestigious national award, which is a tremendous thing. Leslie Rees, Chair of Writers WA, William Yeoman, who is CEO of award sponsor Writing WA, Megan McCracken, Chair of the Premier's Book Award Judges Panel, Catherine Wood, CEO and co-founder of the Centre of Stories, and representing the West Australian Writers Hall of Fame selection panel, to all of the West Australian writers, illustrators, editors and publishers, former Premier of Western Australia, who I know is here, the Honourable Peter Dowding, book lovers, and hello to those online. And there's one more. I met her for the first time after 30 plus years at the first Readers and Writers Festival, the first Premier's Book Awards that I was here for a few years back, and that is Christy Filipich, who is one of our Auslan interpreters. I taught her at Warnbro Primary School in the early 90s. So, to our Auslan interpreters, great. And Christy, at least I got one student right. Do you know, last year, I must say, last year I did cause some controversy when I accused the CEO of the State Library of having a few drinks before the formalities. She doesn't. She practices temperance before, but she has a quiet drink afterwards. But I want to sincerely acknowledge Catherine and her team here at the State Library of Western Australia. She mentioned some of the exhibitions and some of the tremendous work that the library has been doing over this last year, including the Liquid Gold exhibition, which is just behind us. And included in that, I hope it's still there, is something that I donated to that exhibition, which is an original, still intact, carton of Hannon's Stout, which would date back to the 1980s. It's a heritage item, and I've entrusted it, because I don't want to drink it, it looks terrible, but I've entrusted it to the State Library. How are we going with this? I'm sorry. To the State Library, and they're doing a tremendous job. I love these awards. They are really a great opportunity to celebrate all that is writing in Western Australia, West Australian writers, the passion for writing and the importance of writing. And I think that both through the display and the reel that we saw earlier, and the work that the State Library is involved in at this point of time is so important as we reflect on 60,000 years plus and going into, of course, the acknowledgement in 2029. It's important that we reflect on how our creatives, and particularly our writers, the role that they play in telling the stories of Western Australia, supported, of course, by illustrators and publishers. The Premier's prizes are awarded to books published in the calendar year of 2023 by West Australian resident writers of any style or genre. And we're honoured to support Australia's leading Indigenous publisher, and we must be so proud of that. Our Broome-based Magabala Books. What a magnificent institution is Magabala Books. And of course, Magabala Books presents a category open to Indigenous writers from across Australia. And of course, the Daisy Utimura Award for Unpublished Indigenous Junior and Young Adult Fiction is a feature of these awards. It's wonderful to have the continued support of Writing Western Australia in sponsoring the Book of the Year category, and of course we acknowledge Writing WA as the peak body for writers in Western Australia. The State Library received 183 nominations in 4 categories, and each of these works represent countless hours of individual passion and commitment. and a high number of the entries attests, of course, to the talent of our hard-working and passionate creative sector. Western Australia has a reputation, as we know, for enormous creative talent, and this year we are also welcome the announcement of the Western Australian Writers' Hall of Fame. Now, it's a little unusual for me. I shall dress tonight a little bit like Philip Adams. And acknowledging Philip will retire soon from Radio National and his wireless program. But I'm sort of trying to see if I can get in, but someone's already got in before me. But it's fitting that the awards and the Hall of Fame are hosted by our State Library, and I want to reflect on that. It is important that the State Library is the host of these awards, because as Catherine said, it is our State Library that is indeed the home of storytelling in Western Australia. So I want to commend all of these shortlisted authors and illustrators for their contribution to Western Australia's literary landscape. Your work truly is extraordinary, and I would ask the shortlisted nominees, so that we can acknowledge you and your magnificent talents. If you could stand up, those that are our shortlisted nominees. Here they are, and they are magnificent. So, congratulations to our shortlisted nominees. And now, as I stick to the script, it says here I take my seat, I'll do that now. But look, have a great night. This is a great celebration. I love this because it's a celebration. So enjoy tonight, and congratulations to all nominees, and of course to those that are announced shortly as our award winners. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Minister Templeman. And every second year, as the Minister mentioned, we have a particularly special awards event because we induct an esteemed author into the Western Australian Writers' Hall of Fame. Well, tonight is actually even more noteworthy because we'll be honouring 2 West Australian writers for their significant individual achievements as well as their contributions to Western Australia's writing sector. Western Australia is the only state that has a Hall of Fame for writers, and there are currently 18 members in the Hall of Fame, each of whom is widely recognised for their exemplary work and formative place in Western Australian literature, and I think you only need to see the list of them to know that that's true. One of the better days, I have to say, I've had in the job this year was when we had a selection panel of representatives to select this year's inductees. And the 2024 selection panel consisted of writer, academic and Writers' Hall of Fame member Kim Scott, Caroline Wood from the Centre for Stories, Seven West Media's Anthony De Segley, and Trudy Cornish from the city of Greater Geraldton. So you can imagine what a wonderful afternoon sitting around talking about how great WA writers are. But I'd like to now invite Caroline Wood to the stage to announce the first inductee. Caroline Wood, AM, is CEO and co-founder of the Centre for Stories and a board member of Creative Australia. And just last week, Caroline received the Arts and Culture Award at the 2024 Western Australian of the Year event. Congratulations, Caroline. We were delighted.
Tonight is a celebration of stories, and it takes place on Wajak Buja, where traditional owners have cared for stories since the world was soft. I acknowledge them as the first storytellers here and pay my respects to country, ancestors, and elders. Good evening, Minister for the Arts and Culture, the Honourable David Templeman, friends, colleagues, and finalists. Thank you. Gail Jones may have become an obscure florist in Harvey, or a painter. She started her career as a visual artist. She discovered the joy of reading late in life while she was doing her BA with honors in 1980, and I'm sure all of us here are grateful that she did and went down the writing path. Whilst Gail no longer lives in WA, we can rightly claim her as ours. Born in Harvey, she did a PhD at the University of Western Australia, where she became Professor of Writing. Many of her students still remember her fondly as a caring and remarkable lecturer. WA was also where her first work was published. She submitted a short story collection, The House of Breathing, to the Hungerford Award because she needed the money to buy a train ticket to Siberia. She won the Hungerford in 1991 and went on to win the West Australian Premier's Book Award for Fiction in 1993, and no doubt went on that train journey. Gail is one of Australia's most celebrated and awarded writers, and author of 2 short story collections and 10 novels. Her awards include the Age Book of the Year, the Adelaide Festival Prize for Fiction, the Prime Minister's Award for Fiction, the ASAL Gold Medal, the Nita Kibble and Colin Roderick Prize. Her work has been longlisted for the Booker and Orange Prizes and shortlisted for the Miles Franklin and many other awards. Her work has been published internationally, translated into around 15 languages, and is taught in Europe, the UK, Canada, Japan, the United States, Argentina, and China. She's one of Australia's finest writers, a deep thinker, a strong advocate and ambassador for Australian literature, a dedicated, highly respected and popular educator, and a generous mentor to a whole new generation of writers. We are delighted Gail is here with us tonight, and it is my absolute pleasure to ask you to join me in welcoming Gail Jones to the stage to accept this richly deserved recognition.
Thank you. That was, it's quite difficult listening to these things, and I was astonished when I received the phone call telling me about this award. I can think of many other more deserving writers. I have a little speech, so this will be very brief. It's the emerging writers that I'm interested in. I want to begin, however, and this is, I guess, about gratitude, by thanking Roma, Winmar. What a magnificent welcome to country. Deeply moving. Thank you, Roma. I've heard many welcomes to country. This one was extraordinary, as was Jack Collard's poem. I could sense, you can sense when an audience is riveted, and it felt like that. So I'm very conscious that I'm a visitor on Wajak Noongar country. I do pay my respects to elders past, present, and any Indigenous people here tonight. And it is, I feel quite overcome, actually, in a way that I didn't expect to. I was going to give a talk about, a sort of edifying talk about libraries and how important they are, and it is a topic dear to my heart. But as I was walking through the rain last night, the name that occurred to me was Fanny Balbook. And I know many people already know this name, and this is not my story, but I just want to remind you of who Fanny Balbook was and why she is so important to us tonight. The very first piece of academic writing I did was called In Memoriam for Fanny Balbook. Fanny was described as a public nuisance. She was born in around about, well, historians think about 1820. She died in 1840. She was 67 when she died. Her land was what whitefellas call Harrison Island, and she had a practice of walking each day from Harrison across the causeway up through towards this space, this very area, because of course this was a swamp. So Fanny would walk each day to the swamp that is now the railway station to collect duck eggs, to find jilgis, to find plant roots, so for her food. Because of her lifespan and the time she lived, she, of course, witnessed the buildings around her. She witnessed the city of Perth developing. Gradually, her route became impeded. This made Fanny impassioned, angry, dedicated to retaining this inner world of her own space, her own sacred journey each day. She was famous for knocking down the paling of fences when fences came up with her digging stick. She liked to stand outside of Government House and throw stones at Government House. Government House then had a stone wall around it and a sentry, an armed sentry guarding it, but it was built on her grandmother's burial site, and she was unable to visit that site. I know about her because I was working on Daisy Bates. Daisy Bates was an ethnographer who called Fanny Balbook the last Perth Aboriginal woman. And this, of course, is racist nonsense. It's appalling. And it was very, what disturbed me, what I wanted to write about, was the fact that Daisy Bates vigorously sought to purchase Fanny Balbook's skull after she died. What model of value is that? What model of value wants the empty skull, but not the entire universe in that skull of praise, of love song for place, of story, of ritual, of the preservation of the sacred. So I was thinking about, I haven't thought about Fanny for years, but last night, walking through the rain, coming up William Street, up James Street, I thought about her. In my community, in the literary and academic communities of which I'm a part, we tend to value individual voice. What Fanny's story reminds us of is the many stories, the hidden stories, the fact that writers like me from this place, when I grew up all over WA, but what I was obliged to, I have gratitude for what I was obliged to learn about these other stories, about the many locations of story, about the sacredness of story and its communal purchase, as it were. This story is not mine to tell. It belongs to the female Noongar elders like Roma, and I'm very conscious of that, and I would certainly never write about Fanny. What I was writing was a critique of Daisy Bates, who built her career on women like Fanny Balbook, and then wanted to possess her, to own her as a kind of object. So I'll be very brief. I want to thank Catherine Clark and Susan and Alex, the library staff I met today, for the enormous dedication they show in their cherishing of our stories. I want to thank Fremantle Arts Centre Press, who published my first work. And yes, I did go to Siberia with my winnings from the Hungerford Prize. I'd like to thank the 4 universities I've taught at in WA. So I spent most of my time at UWA, and it's fantastic to see ex-students and colleagues here tonight. But I also taught at Curtin, ECU, and Murdoch. And I think that too gave me a sense of the dispersal of stories, that they exist everywhere. There are people dedicated to writing, to the literary, to that whole world in the head, everywhere in this city. I want to mention because this is why I have a piece of paper, so I have some names to remember. I did want to remember my dear friend and mentor, Sister Veronica Brady, the late Sister Veronica Brady. Some of you here will know her, and she was very important to me. I'd like to mention my family, my two brothers, Peter and Kevin, my sister-in-law, Jo. They're here tonight. I thank you, my beloved family, for your patience with me and your support, and my daughter, Kyra, who cannot be here tonight. I'd like to thank my friends, and there are a few of you in the audience that's also very moving to me. And I'd like to name Susan Medelia, who is a friend who from the beginning was my first editor, instructed me in writing, and without whose confidence in me I would never have continued. And I just want to finish by congratulating everyone who's listed tonight for the awards. Not everyone wins awards, but it's a wonderful thing to affirm this community, to know that we're not alone in this, in what we do, to believe in language and writing, and to gather to celebrate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Gail, and I have to say I've been very happy that Gail has written so many books, because I've been devouring them over the last few months, and there's still a few to get through, which is great. It's now time to announce the 20th member of the Western Australian Writers' Hall of Fame, and to do so I'd like to invite Kate Pickard from UWA Publishing to the stage. Kate has worked at UWA Publishing since 2007, is now the publishing manager, and she's worked closely with many Western Australian authors, including our 20th member of the Hall of Fame. Thank you, Kate.
Sorry, Shorty here. Good evening, and I'm really grateful to be standing here on Whadjuk Noongar land. And it is my pleasure to present this author at the forefront of the arts in Western Australia, John Kinsella. John is the author of more than 40 books. His many awards include the Prime Minister's Literary Award for Poetry, the Victorian Premier's Award for Poetry, the John Bray Award for Poetry, the Judith Wright Award for Poetry, and the West Australian Premier's Award for Poetry 3 times. He is a prolific poet and frequent collaborator with other creatives, many of whom are here this evening. John is a Fellow of the Churchill College at Cambridge University and Professor of Literature and Environment at Curtin University. In 2007, John received the Christopher Brennan Award for Lifetime Achievement in Poetry. Since 1999, John's papers have been held in the special collections in the University of Western Australia Library. His relationship with UWA has continued, with UWA Publishing collaborating with John on the compilation of his life's work in a new 3-volume collection spanning more than 40 years of writing, and he does not stop. Many of you will know John is an activist at his core, always attuned to the natural world. His poetry examines how humans respond to a world that we ourselves have placed under pressure. John lives on Balladong Noongar land at Jamtree Gully in the Wheatbelt, and is joined tonight by his partner Tracy Ryan, son Tim, and his mother. Please join me in congratulating John on his contribution to Western Australian writing.
sits proudly next to Gail's. We've known each other a very long time, as one does in the Western Australian writing community. First of all, I'd like to also profoundly thank Roma for the most incredible welcome to country, and Jack for the remarkable poem. It was deeply affecting on so many levels that it will take me some time to fully process, but incredible work. I write on Balladong Noongar land, on stolen country. I'm now speaking on Whadjuk Noongar country. Part of my life's work and mission has been to work towards the just return of country. I come from I have a colonial heritage, and I see it as my responsibility to address that and to rectify as much as I can. So my writing is very much orientated around addressing the incredible wrongs of colonialism. That's probably the prime marker, and that goes along with and is inseparable from a massive respect for the natural environment. The three, if you like, pillars of a very lopsided building that underwrite my poetry are anti-colonialism, pro-environment, and a work towards global peace, towards disarming the world. Racked and destroyed by hate and violence, and people profiting from other people's suffering. I think it's incumbent on us all as writers, in whatever capacity we work in and however we work, in whatever form we work, to address these injustices. That for me is the purpose of poetry. There is no other purpose, for me at least. In this context, I just want to bring attention to a remarkable forest called Julimar Forest, north of Perth, which is under threat from chalice mining. It is one of the most remarkable ecosystems in Western Australia and indeed in the world. The woylie and many other endangered creatures call it home. And it's so bizarre that after reintroductions of threatened species and so on take place, that there's even the prospect of that forest being threatened by mining. And mining, I might add, for apparently green metals. That is the sell. That is the sell. You remove a forest so you can have car batteries. We need to process all this. There needs to be a way through without destroying ecosystems, without destroying Budja. And we owe it. We owe it to country, whatever our backgrounds and wherever we come from, to try and rectify the wrongs and restore land, not damage it further. So that's my little platitudinous moment. But that aside, I am very serious about this, and those of you who know me will know this is what my life exists for, and no other purpose is to try and rectify these wrongs. I'm very grateful for this. I believe deeply in community, deeply, deeply in community. Writing is a community, but writing as a community intersects with so many other communities. This is a community. I'm part of this tonight, and I'm grateful for it. To be acknowledged in this context is meaningful to me, and I thank those who came to this decision, and it's wonderful to share the night in this capacity with all the other writers who have been shortlisted, and with Gail, who, as I said, I've known a very long time, and who also, I think, is deeply obligated in her writing towards justice and towards ways of looking at the world that are just. It makes me proud to share the same space with her as a writer and a person. I also want to thank family, of course. I have writing time, and it's been given to me by my family, going right back to my mother, in fact, who basically supported me when I was very young. And I'm very grateful to be part of a family of writers. Tracy Ryan, my partner, Tim, our son, who's just published his first book of poetry. This is really important to me. So I acknowledge all family, and I also especially acknowledge my many collaborators. I've been privileged to work with Charmaine Paper Talk Green, Yamaji writer from the Geraldton region, one of the great writers and great thinkers about country and about the problems of colonialism and about how to resist colonialism. I've been lucky to work with Kwame Dawes, Ghanese Jamaican writer, now the Poet Laureate of Jamaica, and I've worked with him for many years on books on decolonisation, poetry books, conversations, and the many, many other collaborators I've had the good fortune to work with, musicians and artists. Community, again I say community. So I know it sounds a bit odd to say I see this award as a shared thing, but I actually genuinely do. So I may be the 20th, but that is a very proliferating 20th, which involves hundreds of people. So I think you just expanded the Hall of Fame by hundreds and not by one more. And I thank everyone very much. Bye-bye.
Congratulations to Gail and John. And John was telling me just a little bit earlier about the time that he was exchanging faxes with William Burroughs and Dennis Hopper. So pretty big name dropping there, I think. They've all faded, so did it actually happen, John? We will never know. And thank you to Caroline and again to the Writers' Hall of Fame selection panel for your contribution, and also to Kate for introducing John. It's now time to move to the next part of the evening, which is the presentation of the 2024 Premier's Book Awards, and I'd like to invite Minister Templeman back to the stage to co-present the 5 categories with the help of some former winners and award sponsors. So the first category that we're going to present tonight is the Premier's Prize for an Emerging Writer. And to help the Minister co-host this award, I'd like to invite Nathan Hobby to the stage. Nathan's an author, librarian and researcher who last year won the Premier's Prize for the Book of the Year, sponsored by Writing WA, for his book The Red Witch, a biography of Catherine Susanna Pritchard.
Good evening. The Premier's Prize for an Emerging Writer is for the first published work of prose, poetry or narrative non-fiction in any genre by a Western Australian author. The award comes with $15,000 prize money. The shortlisted titles are I Am the More and Other Stories, written by Chemutai Glasheen, published by Fremantle Press. The Map of William, written by Michael Thomas, published by Fremantle Press. Old Boy, written by Georgia Tree, published by Fremantle Press. Salt River Road, written by Molly Schmidt, published by Fremantle Press. The Things We Live With, written by Gemma Nisbet, published by Upswell Publishing.
And with great honour, the winner of the Premier's Prize for an Emerging Writer is The Map of William by Michael Thomas, published by Fremantle Press. Wow.
When I retired in 2021, it was always my intention to write something. And I first of all attempted to write a recollection of stories gathered from 40 years as a classroom teacher. Didn't go well. I then had to go at writing a memoir. A complete disaster. And so I settled on a brief history of my family, the Thomas family. Anything, something to write, but never a novel. It was the furthest thing from my mind to write a novel. And so when the map of William popped into my head, it almost came as a complete surprise. I'd learned that my great-great-grandfather, Alexander Thomas, murdered a man on Whitmore Lane on the streets of Cardiff in 1848. And he arrived in Western Australia as a convict in 1850. My great-great-grandmother, Louisa, was born in Long Crendon in Buckinghamshire. And at the time of her death in 1910, she was survived by 106 living descendants. And I discovered that I had incredible stories in my own backyard. Family, my own family. And so the characters in my book are loosely based on my forebears, the villains and the heroes, the murderers, and there's a few of them, the criminals, the soldiers and the drovers, mothers and the grandmothers, the shearers and the fathers. They're all skeletons that have been emptied from my family cupboard. And before I knew it, I had 50 pages of a novel, and that novel became The Map of William, and I'm extremely proud this evening to accept this award. I think for me to be recognised as an emerging writer at the age of 66 is... Oh. It's a privilege and not something that I would have ever thought possible. And to be included in the company of my fellow shortlisted authors at Georgia, Chemutai, Molly and Gemma is an honour, and I wish them well with all of their future careers. May they sell millions of books, and I wish them well. Huge thanks to the judges who saw something in the Map of William, to the State Library of Western Australia for their enduring support of local authors, the Office of the Premier of Western Australia, the Minister for Culture and the Arts, David Templeman. Support is greatly appreciated, and the money won't go astray either. Thank you, David. To the great people at Fremantle Press, thank you. To Georgia Richter and Kirsty Horton in particular for their patience and their knowledge in the editing process. No easy thing to work with me. A stubborn old author, very set in my ways. So well done. To Claire Miller and to Chloe Walton, who left no stone unturned and still do in promoting the book, thank you very much. To Norman Jorgensen, who wrote such a fine endorsement for the book. Thank you, Norman, for that. To my family, my son Alec, my daughter Lauren, my greatest supporters, nothing worse than a retired father or husband, always at home, getting under everyone's feet. So thank you for your patience and your love, and thank you all.
With the symbol that came out of the ship, do you know which one it came out of? Symbol.
Congratulations. Now I'd like to invite illustrator and artist Chris Nixon to the stage. Chris won the Premier's Prize for Children's Book of the Year in 2023 for Wild Australian Life, written by Leonard Cronin and illustrated by Chris.
Good evening. I am very honoured to present the Premier's Prize for Children's Book of the Year, which is for a work of prose, poetry or narrative non-fiction written for children aged 0 to 12 in any genre, with a prize of $15,000. The shortlisted titles are City of Light, written by Julia Lawrinson, illustrated by Heather Potter and Mark Jackson, and published by Wild Dog Books. The Eerie Excavation, an Alice England mystery, written by Ash Harrier and published by Pantera Press. A Friend for George, written and illustrated by Gabriel Evans, published by Puffin, an imprint of Penguin Random House Australia. Our Country, Where History Happened, written by Mark Greenwood and illustrated by Franny Lesac, published by Walker Books Australia. And Scout and the Rescue Dogs by Diane Wolfer, published by Walker Books Australia.
Again, a great honour to announce that the winner of the Premier's Prize for Children's Book of the Year is Scout and the Rescue Dogs by Diane Wolfer.
Thank you so much. I did have some ideas. They've gone out of my head. Thank you, Catherine, and the amazing team at the State Library. It's a fantastic library. A lot of my books I've done research for, including the work in progress. I've been up there and done some work. Thank you to Writing WA for your sponsoring, and really important for authors. This is incredibly important. Thank you to Minister Templeman. A huge acknowledgement to my fellow shortlistees. Every one of those books, which are not there anymore, is a beautiful book. It's really hard to judge the children's category. There's picture books, novels. So thank you so much to the judges. It can't have been an easy job, and thank you so much for choosing mine. It's really close to my heart, this book, so yeah, it's a wonderful acknowledgement. I'd like to acknowledge and pay respects to Noongar elders, particularly in Kinjarling, Albany, where I live, and where this book was written. Of course, thank you to the team at Walker Books, Lindsay Knight, Claire Halifax, Christina Pagliano, and particularly Mark McLeod, who was the editor, and he really stretched me as a writer. I learnt a lot while I was doing this book. And Tony Flowers for the amazing cover, so beautiful, and for bringing those dogs to life. It's basically, there's a girl and her dad, truck driver, taking philanthropic dog food at Christmas. The story was written on one level. I have a rescue dog. Hello, Harry, and if you're out there watching, I hope so. And my husband Pete for doing the buttons in that case. I think I travel a lot for work. I live in Albany, and I travel a lot, and so I see truckies on the road all the time, and I think they're unsung heroes of our community. They keep the country going, as do rescue dogs. And so I'd written this story, and then it was pretty much shaped, and then the Black Summer fires happened, and my family was greatly impacted by that. I've a WA now, but my mum lives in Albury, where the air was so toxic. When I flew over at Christmas, we couldn't even land. We had to land 2 hours away. The air was orange and toxic in the house for weeks. My sister evacuated twice from the Snowies, and my cousin's family fought huge walls of flames at Corrion. So this book is close to my heart. I think I've remembered to thank everybody. Thank you to my writing buddies for all the edits, and mostly to my family for your support, ongoing support, and it's not always easy living with a writer, and your support, and also for those edits. Thank you very much.
Congratulations. Next up is the Daisy Utamora Award for Unpublished Indigenous Junior and Young Adult Fiction, named in honour of author and poet Daisy Utamora, who is an elder of the Wanambul people from the Micho Plateau area in the far north Kimberley, and Daisy was a founder of Magabala Books. The award is administered and funded by Magabala Books with support from the Department of Local Government, Sport and Cultural Industries and the Copyright Agency. I'd like to invite Edith Wright, a director of Magabala Books, to the stage to co-present the Daisy Utamora Award for Unpublished Indigenous Junior and Young Adult Fiction. Edith Wright is Bardi Jawi. She has extensive experience in education and publishing, and during her time in education, she supported community leaders and health professionals in pioneering research to improve educational outcomes for First Nations children. And her interest extends from literacy to literature, and Edith is a published author of her own of adult and children's stories.
Good evening, everyone. Firstly, I'd like to acknowledge Roma for an outstanding welcome to country. I mean, I wish I could sing like that. It really does. It's very moving, and it does warm your heart. Also to Jack for the poetry. I really wish you every success with your poetry. I would also like to acknowledge that we are on the lands of the Wadjak Noongar people and pay my respect to the elders, past and present, and hope that they guide us tonight with how we celebrate literature in WA. First, I just want to explain that magabala is a bush banana. It's a bush banana that's about 4 centimetres long and about 2 centimetres wide, and it grows on a vine. And when it dries, it opens up and it has airborne seeds that are spread far and wide. And those seeds grow and they give back to country and to the people of that country. Has a quite a delicious bush fruit. But Magabala Books is like that. We spread our stories. The stories written by our writers and our creators and our authors. We spread our stories far and wide, in Australia, overseas, everywhere, so that our culture and our stories live on. Also, let me tell you a little bit about Daisy Utamora. I actually had the honour of growing up in Derby with Daisy there. Now, I know Daisy quite well, and I do know Daisy. In about 1930, Daisy and her parents walked in from the bush. Imagine that, walked in from the bush. And they walked into a mission called Kunmanya Mission, which is in the East Kimberley. And in that mission, there was a little school run by Reverend Love's wife, Margaret Love. And it was in that little school that Daisy learnt the art of reading and writing and listening and speaking. And Daisy knew by the time the Moanjum people, because they were called Moanjum people because there were actually 3 language groups, Wanambul, Ngarajan and Wadorda, when they moved into Derby in the 1950s, by the time they moved to Derby, the whole community, the whole 3 tribes, Daisy could see the power of literature and writing things down. And she saw that as a way of dealing with a lot of the things that were being that her family and her community were exposed to. And so Daisy wrote a little book about Dunbi the owl, and it's her story, and also woven in it are some absolutely touching poems. So, you know, I was so proud to have, and honoured to have known Daisy. But the award that now, this legacy that lives on, it's to ensure that our young people have stories that celebrate who they are and who they can be. The Daisy Utamura Award is open to all authors at all stages of their career, but has a strong career development focus. It presents a transformative opportunity for First Nation writers. Being shortlisted or winning can be really career defining for the authors. The benefits include incentives and inspiration to write, our author support, career pathway, and audience development. Also, there is a financial reward and benefits flowing from publishing contracts. The Daisy Utamura Award seeks to grow the body of youth literature by First Nations writers and to increase the profile of First Nations authors. This award, it's Australia-wide, and it includes unpublished fiction in addition to graphic novels. Previous winners include Kerrilee Saunders for her award-winning novel Bindi, Carl Merrison and Hakia Hustler for their junior fiction novel Diran, a moving sequel to their award-winning book Black Cockatoo, and Mariah Sweetman for her junior fiction novel Robert's Run. I now ask the Minister to join me to announce the Daisy Utamura Award for unpublished junior fiction and young adult fiction. The award comes with $15,000 prize money and a publishing contract with Magabala Books. The shortlisted titles are Dr. Stephen Hagan for Acacia, Six Eyes on Yesterday, Maureen Glover for Brothers in Arms, Elsie Thornwaite for Underneath the Surface, Marley and Linda Wells for Dusty Tracks.
Great honour again to announce that the winner of the Daisy Utamura Award for unpublished Indigenous junior and young adult fiction is Dusty Tracks by Linda and Marley Wells.
We're honoured to be on Whadjuk Budja and to be welcomed here for such a special moment together. I'm Marley and this is my mum Linda. My father's a Warlpiri man from the Western Desert who isn't with us anymore. We love writing and we love reading, and like Daisy Utamura, we believe that storytelling and writing allows us to tell the world about the richness of First Nations history and culture. Daisy Utamura is quoted as saying, "She fought with words for her people." We also believe that Indigenous stories are a powerful weapon for fighting against ignorance and prejudice. We hope that our story Dusty Tracks from Central Australia does all of those things. We look forward to the process of turning it into a book and can't wait to share it with everyone. This book is for and about young people who are learning about the truth and our colonial past in a way that previous generations did not. One of our aims is for this work to contribute to their understandings. Sincere thanks to Magabala Books for this opportunity. Congratulations to our fellow shortlisted writers. May this be the first of many times we come together to recognise and celebrate our achievements as peers. To be recognised and supported by Australia's leading Indigenous publishing house, who continue to shape the canon of our national literature, is such an honour. We're thrilled to be included amongst the significant titles and authors that Magabala chooses to publish. I'd like to thank my mum for nurturing and supporting my love and appreciation for books, ideas, and for viewing the world critically and with care. This book couldn't exist without her, and I'm so glad we got to experience this together.
Thank you, Marley. I'd like to thank Marley for her empathy and now I've forgotten what I'm going to thank her for, everything about her, but her empathy and her wisdom and her commitment to this project and her commitment to doing what she can for the world and to change the world and to make the world a better place. Thanks.
Congratulations. Next up is the Premier's Prize for Book of the Year, sponsored by Writing WA. And I'd like to invite the CEO of Writing WA, Will Yeoman, to the stage to co-present this award. Will has worked as a literary editor, music critic, festival director and journalist, and is deeply immersed in supporting and championing the Western Australian writing industry. And while Will's walking up, he may mention this himself, but I'll also take the opportunity to mention that Writing WA are currently running their Love to Read local campaign with lots of recommendations about local writers.
Thank you, Catherine. Thanks, David. Thanks, Roma. Thanks, Jack and everyone else. It's marvellous to be here. It's such an honour to be on Wajak Noongar Budja. It's also an honour to have grown up on Badadong Noongar Budja, like John. So it's also, of course, a pleasure to be here as part of WA's premier literary event. You see what I did there? Maybe not. What a difference a possessive makes. Now, I believe 15K buys us a couple of minutes to talk about ourselves, so here we go. The last time I stood before you, I'd only recently taken over as CEO of Writing WA. I should mention I don't normally write out my speeches, but I get so nervous sharing the stage with David here because he's so unpredictable. I thought I'll just need a safety net. Yeah, CEO of Writing WA, whose primary mission is to foster, grow and sustain a diverse ecosystem within which Western Australian literature and its writers, poets, illustrators and readers can flourish within the broader context of the other arts, the sciences and the wider local, national and international community. Since then, since last year, the organisation has rapidly evolved and indeed many have expressed astonishment as how much we've been able to achieve in such a short space of time. Believe me, we're only just getting started. Just to cite a few quick examples, we've got a new, stronger and more proactive board led by Chair Leslie Rees-AM, who's here tonight, and the consolidation of an expanded team, and my thanks go to them for all their incredible passion, creativity and commitment. The successful delivery of the Perth Festival Writers' Weekend right here, as well as the York Regional Writers' Weekend. We're just in the process of reviving the Emerging Writers Program. And also just now, just at the tail end of another hugely successful statewide Love to Read Local Week, we have a new book launch service here at the library as well, which levels the playing field by making available venues, hospitality and admin support to all Writing WA members, from self-published through to traditionally published authors. A bumper program of workshops, including PD workshops for more advanced writers by advanced writers such as Natasha Lester and Dave Wish-Wilson. We've got a fabulous new Writing WA Substack, which I'm hoping you'll get on board with and join. It's a bit of a one-stop shop with reviews, podcasts, soon videos and a weekly blog. We're just kicking off a new journal called The Little Journal, which will focus on genre fiction, the first edition of which, dedicated to speculative fiction and edited by Askell Dadswell, is the result of a partnership with Night Parrot Press and ECU. This will be launched here at the State Library in early August. Also forthcoming is a new First Nations collection called What is an Aboriginal Elder, edited by Dr. Marion Kickett. Now, of course, none of this could be possible without the ongoing support of our sponsors and partners, including the Department of Local Government, Sport and Cultural Industries, Lottery West, Copyright Agency, Cultural Fund, the State Library of WA, absolutely, and our amazing donors. Now, Writing WA always welcomes new partners and donors to help support and expand its important work, and Leslie Rees or myself would be only too happy to talk to you following tonight's formalities. And yes, I do have a card reader on my mobile. Anyway, to the matter at hand. I now ask the Minister to join me to announce the Premier's Prize for Book of the Year, sponsored by Writing WA. The award is for an outstanding book by an author residing in Western Australia. This category is open to prose, poetry, history, young adult, fiction, or narrative non-fiction in any style or genre. The shortlisted titles are A Better Place by Stephen Daisley, published by Text Publishing; Cell Night, a verse novel by John Kinsella, published by Transit Lounge; The Memory of Trees by Vicky Kramer, published by Thames and Hudson, Australia; Operation Hurricane by Paul Grace, published by Hachette, Australia; and What's for Dinner by Jill Griffiths, published by Thames and Hudson, Australia.
And again, a great honour to announce the winner of the Premier's Prize for Book of the Year, sponsored by the magnificent Writing WA, is A Better Place by Stephen Daisley, published by Text Publishing.
Well, thank you very much indeed. Very, very surprising and, yeah, deeply humbling. Thank you. I'm quite nervous and I'm not given to public speaking at all very much, as you can probably tell. Yeah, thank you. Everyone else has said so many good things. I'm not going to say too much more and leave it at that, so thank you.
Congratulations. Celebrate and enjoy.
Congratulations to Stephen, and I just finished reading that book on the weekend, and it is fabulous. Before we announce the final award of the evening, I'd like to take a moment to thank our judges. This year we had our largest judging panel yet, and as you can imagine, it's not for the faint-hearted. You have to be a very keen reader to put your hand up for our judging panel. And each panel member carefully read, considered, compared and assessed a considerable number of entries, 183 as we heard from the Minister earlier. The judging process is rigorous and multi-layered, and their time, enthusiasm and knowledge has been invaluable. Megan McCracken has been an exceptional head judge, diligent and considered, and as a small token of our appreciation, we'd like to present Megan with some flowers, if you'd like to come up, Megan. And while Megan's walking up, many of you might know, and I'd like to congratulate Megan on a related literary achievement. Earlier this week, Megan was announced as the chair of Stella, the not-for-profit organisation that administers the Stella Prize. And thank you, and congratulations on your appointment, Megan, and of course we're very happy to have a Western Australian appointment. And I have to say, between Megan going to Stella, Caroline Wood with her Western Australian of the Year Award, and Anthony de Segli going to Channel 7, Director of all Channel 7 News, I feel that this is kind of, a career path for people who might choose to join us in future years. But please join me in thanking the entire judging panel. The final category for tonight is the Western Australian Writers' Fellowship, and I'd like to welcome to the stage poet, novelist, and last year's fellowship recipient, Tracy Ryan.
Hello, everybody. The Western Australian Writers' Fellowship is intended to assist a writer of any genre to develop their writing practice and give them the time to create new work. At $60,000, the fellowship is one of the most valuable awards in Australian arts. And what I found most valuable in the year that's just flown, they say time flies when you're having fun, it also flies when you're working, was the ability to concentrate in depth on a work project without the concerns that often make immersion in your work just that bit harder. But also the feeling of a vote of confidence from the community, kind of moral support, which is how I hope everyone shortlisted tonight feels, that there's a vote of confidence there. And in fact, it's a remarkable, amazing list of shortlisted authors. The shortlisted authors are Lucy Dugan, Alan Fife, Kylie Howarth, Laurie Steed, and Emma Young. Thank you.
Well, can I say before I announce the final award, can I just again acknowledge the tremendous work of our magnificent State Librarian in Catherine and the staff. Please again acknowledge their wonderful, wonderful work. To all of the writers and illustrators who've been acknowledged tonight and to those award winners, sincere congratulations. And it is with great honour, honestly, as Minister for Culture and Arts to announce the winner of the Western Australian Writers' Fellowship is Kylie Howarth.
It was definitely worth braving the ferry back from Rottnest today. My Sunday one was cancelled, so thank God this one wasn't cancelled. Okay, I do have some thank yous here. Thank you to the State Library staff, the Western Australian State Library staff who manage these awards. Thank you to the Honourable Roger Cook and the Honourable David Templeman. I really needed a hug just then. And to the State Government for funding this fellowship. Congratulations to my fellow shortlistees, Lucy, Alan, Laurie, and Emma. You are all so incredibly talented and deserving. A huge thank you to the judges for recognising the importance of children's literature for this award and acknowledging the need for inclusive literary works like the graphic novels that I'm creating. And thank you for being so open-minded as to fund the creation of a book with snot in the title. Kev and Trev's Snot Funny Sea Tales is the first book in my graphic novel series and will be released in August this year. I'll be creating the second book in the series during this fellowship. Kev and Trev sprang from the boring school readers that failed to captivate my children week after week. So I decided to make them some little lunchbox mini books. They were short, illustrated little poems that I'd fold up. They always had a funny, twisted ending, and I'd put them in their lunchbox about once a week when I had the time to make one. They showed their friends, and their friends were soon begging me for the next instalment. They showed their teachers, and the teachers started sharing them with the entire class. And so I also decided to share a few on Instagram for other people to enjoy. And they got a really, really good feedback, and I also was contacted by 2 publishers asking me if I could develop them into a publishable format. So I've spent the last 3 years developing this concept into a unique graphic novel shape with my publisher Tash Bezliev from Affirm Press.
As the mother of 2 dyslexic children, I'm extremely passionate about creating inclusive books that children of all reading abilities can enjoy. I'm extremely proud of these books, and I can't wait to see them take flight soon. I have a few more people I need to thank. My Squibby, which is the Society of Children's Book Writers and Illustrators, my tribe. Thank you for your friendship, thank you for your support. Some are here tonight, and others are currently on Rottnest Island on our annual Writers' Retreat, which is where I've just come from this afternoon. Thank you to my literary agent, Pippa Masson. And to save the best for last, thank you to my family, Dane, you're here, and my friends, and in particular, my 2 amazing boys, Bo and Jack, because none of my books would exist without you. Thank you, Dane.
So well said, and congratulations.
Thank you very much.
I'm sure the fellowship's going to be marvellous.
Oh, it'll be amazing. Very grateful. Thank you.
And congratulations. Thank you, Minister Templeman, for joining us this evening and being a gracious and, as always, entertaining co-host. And thank you to the State Library team too for coordinating the awards and the event. The Boffins pop-up bookshop will be open until 9:30, just at the back here, where you can purchase all of the shortlisted books, and some of our authors and illustrators may be around and able to sign copies. And thank you also to those people who joined us on the live stream. Our winners are now, and I have to say this because people get excited and run off, our winners will have some photos taken. We will be going this way. And I'd like to invite everyone else to move into the main foyer for more refreshments, entertainment, and congratulations. That concludes the 2024 Premier's Book Awards and Writers Hall of Fame. Enjoy the rest of your evening.